Rosenbaum from Modvic and Steampunkin. Has anyone seen the Steampunk house online? That's our house, and we were steampunking before we even knew what steampunking was. Steam what, we would say?
Come on over and give him a little more elbow.
We came through it really through the back door, and from a restoration, modernization. We started Modvic in 2007, basically as a Victorian home restoration company, and just love the idea of being able to modernize and being sympathetic to the house's original layout. It's it's beautiful architecture, it's details and craftsmanship, and then kind of started to do this to our own home in Sharon, and we wanted to our kind of brand of restoration was we wanted to use authentic period objects. So the house was built in 1901, so we didn't want to be slavish to 1901, but we wanted to have objects in the house that was from the Victorian period, maybe the late 1800s, early 1900s. And then started work on our kitchen where we wanted to make things functional. We wanted to infuse modern technology into these period objects, and it was sometime later someone came through and told us we were steampunking, and there you go. So we started, because of the real estate market and what's been going on, home restoration is really now taking a back seat. Now we're doing more steampunk interior home design, where we're steampunking objects in rooms. So we're really looking at steampunking as a creative design solution. We're looking at it as you love that period, you love the look, you love the aesthetic, you love the craftsmanship, and you can have that, and you can eat and have that and eat your cake too, because now these things don't have to be museum pieces; they can be functional art. For instance, we have a late 1800s cast iron stove. It's got a great name. It's the J.L. Mott's Defiance. So that's kind of how we feel. And so that was a cooking stove. It's a beautiful piece of sculpture. It's a really beautiful cast iron with nickel plating and just a beautiful workmanship that now it's no longer being cooked or fired by wood. It's now has a Mealy electric cooktop, a modern cooktop, and it's got two stainless steel ovens with new elements. It's got controls that are built into the panels of the piece, and it's the whole deal. It's the whole deal. So so that's kind of where we started, and so now it's become an obsession in some ways. In terms of finding pieces and then saying, that used to do that, but it doesn't make sense to have it do that anymore. What else can it do? What modern purpose, repurpose can we do? So we're starting. We have clients now that are interested in doing these type of projects. Just to give you an example, I just had a patent attorney come to me in Boston, and he loves what we do, and he wants something that we can steampunk that would be relevant to him and his business. So he deals with inventors. He's a patent attorney, and so he wants us to come up with computer desks where he can meet clients where a patented invention, maybe a 100-year-old invention, is part of his workstation. And so now that not only is just a cool kind of steampunk project, he's got a story to tell. He's got an invention right there. It's built as part of his workstation, where he can talk about an inventor in the past, what might have happened, and it has a lot of relevance in terms of his own profession. So that's kind of the direction that we're going now. We're working with clients who want to have the cool factor, but also have something that has meaning to them. And especially also if you have like a grandmother that was a seamstress, or if you have your grandmother's Singer sewing machine, what can you do with it other than just having it sit in the
I have a treadle.
You have a treadle, see?
It sits in my bedroom.
Right. And if you can do something with that where you're interacting with it,
I'm actually going to use it.
You're going to use it. Okay. Well, that's the primary use. But a lot of people don't sew, or they don't want to use the machine anymore. Well, how else can you repurpose that item and be able to interact with it, so you can enjoy, you can have that memory. of that relative. So that's where we're going.
And Bruce also, just as a sidebar, he has some very high-level clients that are coming to him now from the corporate world, and they're you know, putting their toe in the water with steampunk and going, we might want to see this in some of our office buildings. So keep a lookout in the future. You might see some very interesting things come down the pike. Oh.
They expected me to be sober and awake at this time. So here I am.
At least one of those?
One is about what you're going to get.
Okay.
I'm an old timer about steampunk in a way. I started in 1988 with a game called Space 1889. I was one of the 5 people who actually played it.
Another one back
yeah,
there, too.
and because the system was terrible, but I loved the idea of Victorian science fiction and all that. I grew up in an old Victorian house with Victorian grandparents. My grandfather had a tiny little steam engine with a little electric generator that has a little light on it, and that was my night light. He would fire it up, and I was not allowed to touch it, and I'd burn my little fingers, pour more water in it, and it was so cute and everything. And so when steampunk took off lately, I'm kind of like, welcome to the party. I remember making stuff and people going, no one's, what the hell is that? And I'm like, I'll wear it and I'll be the sad kid over here while you're all doing bunny punk or whatever it is you're doing. You know, hopping around. But now it's been kind of fun. I just suddenly found out I'm an artist, like you, and you're like, what? I'm an artist? Yeah, have any of you heard about the Ashmolean Museum exhibit? That steampunk exhibit? That was the first museum exhibit of steampunk art in the world. And one of the most, quote, one of the most prestigious, even if the people who were in it do say so themselves. I got to be one of those people. One of the pieces that was exhibited was...
The arm.
You remember the steampunk episode of Castle? This is the arm he was wearing. And I got to be the one who made it. They kind of found me by accident and said, wow, you seem to know what this steampunk thing is about. We have to make a steampunk episode. And we don't know anything about steampunk. How would you like to be a consultant? And I'm like, do I get paid? They said, oh yeah.
You better.
One of the problems, one of the things is, as a quote artist, I get a lot of flack in a way for, is I like to get paid. A whole lot. I like that whole getting paid thing. So quite often they'll go, oh no, we're looking for an artist. You're a company. You're Brute Force. That's my company name is Brute Force Studios, because we don't know how to do anything. We just use brute force and technology to do all this. I see a lot of, I actually see some of my stuff on some people around here, which is kind of fun.
Nice.
You know, it's nice when I go to an event and go, mine, mine, mine.
I do that with cars.
Yeah.
Only I didn't get paid for those.
But yeah, the biggest thing lately is this, and McGraw-Hill, who probably made most of your textbooks, contacted me recently and
they take
said,
our money, they're evil.
well, I now work for the evil empire. They said, you know how you become a writer by, you write a book, you find an agent, and he
Grab a
gets
chair
the
and
book.
come on in.
He takes the book to the... No, McGraw-Hill called an agent and said, we need someone to write this book, and this guy went on the internet and said, well, we'll pick him. And so all my friends who went to school to become an author and haven't published anything, they have formed a firing squad and are hunting me down, because I was like minding my own business hoping to avoid writing, and they said, hey, how'd you like to be an author? So they actually paid me for that too. Yeah, it's like, woohoo! And, by the way, I type like, you know, Fred Flintstone with a rock hitting the keyboard. It was a bit embarrassing. That's me. Not much else.
Steve was talking about the process of the cars and whatnot. I was a little further down the line. I'm a retired tool maker. That's kind of like tool maker to a machinist is sort of like a doctor to a nurse. Sort of. Tool maker is more overseeing an entire project. A machinist makes things, a tool maker makes things that make things. And a lot of people don't really think about that. Everything you see, everything was made by somebody. I actually had an ex-wife that goes, people don't make that, you get it at the store. One of the reasons. But the idea is that everything, unless you're in manufacturing, you don't realize that everything you see is made, well, aside from maybe rocks, made by someone. It's stamped out, it's molded, it's cast, and so, I mean, if you're not really in an industry, you don't really see everything that's going on behind the scenes. The toolmaker is sort of overseeing the circus of all the pieces being made and assembled into these big machines that, you know, stamp or mold or whatever.
Well, and as a note for that, so that you understand the whole process is, in all of engineering, it comes down to the tool maker is the most important guy. The designer creates it, the tool maker makes it. Without him, the spice does not flow.
Actually, before that I was a model maker. That was sort of how I got in there. So it's a different, it's progressive. For me, it was a progressive thing. Our group, Airship Occam's Razor, we, 2 years we've been doing cons. Never been to a con in my life. But we had been doing the SCA for 20 years. Yeah. So had gone to breakfast and come back in our normal clothes and coming up the elevator. And very enthusiastic young lady goes, "What do you think about all the people that are dressed crazy? You know, what do you think?" I was like,
She didn't look at his feet.
I have costumes that are older than you. I was like, I think I'm gonna go put on my stuff. I don't have anything else to say. I was like, I appreciate your enthusiasm. It's a great thing. So, I mean, everybody else, except him, has kind of the same story. It's like, I'd never heard of it. In the medieval reenactment, I did crowns for kings. I did all sorts of cast stuff, metalwork. Like, wow, we need this. We need you.
Hinges.
Yeah, everything. So, and I, you know, do woodworking and metalworking, or leatherworking. So it's sort of like, we want you to make this. So, man, I've been doing this for a long time. A lot of crowns for barons and kings, and you know, if I had one, I'd have to have moving crap all over it. So I started kind of, you know, just sort of musing. It's like, I want like a little steam whistle. That'd be really annoying. And for those of you that don't know the culture, that is right out. They do not like that. They want everything very nice and rigid. Well, we don't exactly. We're not quite on board with all of that. We're just there to have a good time, a little vacation. I said I would want like gears that spin, and I want a big crank that I could crank it up to where everything would just go in a steam whistle. And a friend of ours goes, "Well, that's steampunk." I have no idea what you just said. He goes, "No, I mean, that's what you're describing." I'm like, one word or two? What's one word? Well, look it up. Went home and I go, "Oh my gosh."
It is one word.
It is. And I was like, I'm already sort of doing this. It's like, I'm really getting tired of camping at 100-degree heat.
I don't do dirt anymore.
Yeah, so like,
Outdoor event.
You elitist bastards.
yeah, I was like, I like indoors and
And air
yeah,
conditioning.
air conditioning is nice. But I mean, when we go, we bring everything. So I bring an entire workshop and everything because I'm gonna be out there for 9 days. I gotta be working on something. So you know, this entire complex gets built for like 9 days, and you just go, I'm tired of that. I just want to go stay at a hotel. So now we pull up a big trailer, and they say, you can't park here. Are you a merchant? Vendor? No? What do you mean I can't park? I'm unloading my stuff. They said, well, you have to pull around back. The merchants selling stuff. You're not selling stuff. Which would be better, because then I'd be packing less going home. No, this is all just for this weekend. All right.
Here you are.
So, anyways, metalworking, long background, just recently into the con. So,
Makes very fine, high-level stuff.
thank you.
Okay, we're not going to be able to do the round table. We got too many people. So please, later, talk amongst yourself and introduce yourselves. That's part of this whole culture, is getting to know people. Thank you, Frenchie and the Punk, for coming and hanging out with us. Very delightful to have you. Thank you for that shout out. You do know how to make a guy feel good.
That's the only time I've seen him blush.
I went like that. And I never do that. I always got something to say. All right, quickly, let me just, there's all kinds of questions, there's all kinds of levels. Let me just say a couple of things, and then we're going to start just interacting with you guys. What's the difference between a crafter, a craftsman, and an artist?
How much are paid?
Well, I'm going to give you what I think. I've been thinking about this a little bit. A crafter is someone who has relatively common skills. They work with commonly acquired objects. They create things for entertainment value, novel pieces, usually for commercial sale to the general public most of the time. Their skills are usually attained through just general practice. They sit there and they practice until they get to a proficient level and they make enough pieces and they go and sell. A very novel thing. This is not a bad thing at all. There's lots of people that do very well at this. A craftsman is someone who does not have necessarily common skills. They might have a little bit more extraordinary skills in a particular discipline. Usually somebody like that is who has a background in something else that was employed by someone to do commercial or technical things. And at that point they launched off from that commercial aspect or that company aspect to do things of their own, and consequently some of the stuff they do for themselves, it's very high level based on their many years of experience, and they get that experience through either the years putting in the time. Many times it's trained under very highly skilled people, and almost always for somebody else for quite a while. That's the difference between a crafter and a craftsman, in my opinion. An artist can be one or two of those things, either one. The difference between those people, the skill levels are still high. The artist comes in, and what they do is they allow the work to create itself. They become the tool, and they let the parts find their way. They let the materials work for them. I am absolutely certain all of us have sat down at a room or a table and have looked at a pile of parts and maybe didn't have a plan.
Or a clue.
Or a clue, and most often not a clue. But through the course of sitting there and looking at the parts, the synergy between the parts and the person start to happen. The parts start going here and going there, and they start coming together, and eventually they become an idea. Usually it's a random selection of things. Then the artist portion comes into play in the execution of bringing these parts into substance. Make sense? And here's where the weird thing is. We'd all like these things to be saleable. Sometimes they are, sometimes they're not. But it doesn't make them any less artful. Make sense? And I think that's the creative process for possibly singers, musicians, any number of artist fields. They let the work happen. They don't get in the way of the work. Does that make sense? Crafters, craftsmen, artists. What I'm going to try to encourage you with this esteemed panel here is to work for that little Zen part. When you look at stuff, don't rush into something and just start making things. Let the parts tell you where they want to be. Fair?
Can I just make a note of
Please do.
difference here? You said artists. In Massachusetts, we say artists.
Yeah, if you got a speech impediment, feel free to. It's okay. It's not a problem.
You want to go to a potty. That's
I had to go potty. I went to a potty, but I washed my hands.
yes.
Okay, so quickly, I want to tell you just a couple of things about Dr. Deming. Anybody know about Dr. Edward Deming? Okay. Dr. Edward Deming is first of all, he's one of the smartest men that have ever been born in the world. And I'm going to tell you why in a minute. But he was the guy, after World War II, Japan had been flattened by the bombs. We had to get over there and get those people back into an industrial nation, self-sufficient, extremely quickly. Because we, as this country, we had just been sucked dry of all our money. They need to be up and running and supporting themselves very quickly. The guy that they sent over there to do that was Dr. Edward Deming. He is a genius. He's the guy that made Toyota what they are.
What they were.
Well, and there's, let's not get ahead of ourselves. What I'm not going to give you his whole spiel, but people study Dr. Deming in the industrial world like military people study Sun Tzu's Art of War. He's that guy. And what Dr. Deming said is, the outcome of any product is of no concern to you. When you are a manufacturing entity, the outcome is not your business. Which sounds odd, doesn't it?
Yes.
He said the quality of the process is more important than the outcome of the product. If you put the quality into the process, into the design, into the manufacturing, into the material selection, the thought going into your items, the outcome will happen for you. You don't have to worry about that part of it. So, as we go forward through this discussion, I want to keep a theme of quality of the process, and the quality of your thought is more important than any of the outcomes. I want to look good for the con, that's not important to you. I want to make some money off these parts, that shouldn't be important to you, because you can't make that happen. What you control is the process of making the parts themselves. Sir?
And it really should be enjoyable. It's really enjoying the journey, because otherwise it's just a lot of work.
Yes, that's true. What we find, and I've audited all of these guys, and many of you I've talked to a little bit, and my guitars are less valuable to me today than they were before. Does that sound odd to you? Why do you think they're less valuable today?
They're done.
In what way do you think?
It's like, well, I went to art school, so when you have an idea and you work it out, like, oh, let's throw out there, Monet's water lilies. He does them and 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 does them. And then he grew out of them because he did everything he could absolutely think of to those water lilies. So you've grown kind of beyond your guitars. You want to work.
Very good point. Even more importantly, I'm kind of an ADD guy. I was ADD before anybody even heard of ADD. They just thought I was a bad kid.
Could be that too.
Couldn't keep his mind right, couldn't pay attention. I was one of them can't pay attention kids. What happens with me is the process of doing is more enjoyable than the process of having. To me, the thrill is making that piece of whatever it is, dirty, rusty, crappy, oxidized nastiness. I hit it on a grinder wheel and then I hit it on a buffer and it glows. And I get excited. The doing part of it is more important to me than the having part of it. Any comments, guys?